To the happy couple who always did play in the mud. Tamara's voice sliced through the opulent reception hall like a polished blade, her tone laced with saccharine venom that masked the sharpness beneath. The champagne flutes clinked in unison, a symphony of mockery, as laughter erupted from the crowd of 200 guests, their eyes swiveling toward Bethany and Payton like spotlights on a stage. Bethany's cheeks flushed hot, a wave of humiliation crashing over her, turning her wedding day, meant to be a pinnacle of joy, into a battlefield of old resentments. In the grand ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers that cast glittering shadows on silk-draped tables, Bethany sat frozen in her grandmother's altered gown, the fabric soft but heavy with inherited expectations. The air was thick with the scent of fresh lilies and expensive perfumes, a stark contrast to the earthy aroma that clung to Payton from his morning in the fields. Tamara, radiant in her designer bridesmaid dress, commanded the head table like a queen, her golden hair catching the light as she reveled in the family's unspoken hierarchy. Bethany, the middle sister, had always been the outlier, the one whose choices invited disdain rather than applause. Bethany, honey, smile, her mother, Rossi, hissed under her breath, her manicured nails digging into Bethany's arm like talons. The pressure was a familiar sting, a reminder of the scrutiny that had shadowed Bethany's life. People were indeed watching, their gazes heavy with judgment, as if anticipating which Blair's sister would falter. It was always Bethany, the one who dared to deviate from the path of prestige. Payton's rough, calloused hand slipped under the table, his thumb drawing soothing circles on her palm. His brown eyes met hers steady and warm, untouched by the echoing snickers. "Let them laugh," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear, carrying the faint scent of soil and determination. "We know what we have." In that moment, amidst the sea of pressed suits and artificial smiles, Bethany's love for him surged, a man dusted from the fields, who had insisted on checking the irrigation system even on their wedding day. He was authenticity incarnate, grounding her in a room bloated with pretense. "I still can't believe you're marrying a farmer," Erin, the youngest sister at 27, whispered as she slid into the chair beside Bethany. Erin's diplomatic nature softened the edges of family barbs, but her words still pricked. "I mean, I think it's romantic, but Mom's been popping antacids all week." Bethany managed a wry smile, her eyes fixed on Tamara, who at 31 embodied perfection. Stanford MBA, Manhattan corner office, a husband in $1,000 suits discussing market volatility at elite dinners. "That's not what I meant," Erin backpedaled quickly, but the interruption came from their father, Donald. His voice boomed through the microphone, cutting the chatter like a gavel. Standing at the podium, his silver hair impeccably styled, his face etched with resignation tinged with disappointment, he commanded attention. "I'd like to say a few words about my daughter Bethany." Bethany's stomach plummeted, dread coiling like a serpent in her gut. "Bethany has always been unique," he began, as Tamara smirked behind her champagne glass. While her sisters focused on careers and achievements, Bethany chose a different path, a simpler one. The word simpler lingered like a condemnation, heavy in the perfumed air. Payton's grip tightened, a silent anchor. "She's chosen to marry Payton, a man who works with his hands and understands hard work." The pauses were calculated, each one a subtle jab. "We wish them happiness in their humble life." The applause was tepid, polite claps echoing hollowly. Rossi dabbed her eyes, tears ambiguous, joy or grief for lost potential. "Your dad's laying it on thick," Payton whispered, his voice steady despite the veiled insults. "He's been practicing for weeks," Bethany replied, watching Tamara whisper to her husband Elijah. Their shared laughter, a dagger aimed at her. This was her family. Celebrants turned mourners, dismissing her college degree, teaching awards, and organic produce business because she prioritized love over status. "You know what?" Bethany stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the polished floor, silencing the room. She raised her water glass, too practical for champagne waste, and locked eyes with Tamara. "To family," her voice rang clear, "and to learning who really has your back." Tamara's smile flickered, but she raised her glass. The toast drew a line in the sand, unseen by most. As Bethany sat, Payton whispered, "That's my girl." Little did she know how those words would echo through the years. 3 years later, the scene shifted to Tamara's opulent estate, where marble-tiled foyers gleamed under chandeliers, and the air hummed with the clink of glasses and forced mirth. Bethany clutched a humble casserole dish, its warmth contrasting the cold luxury of the doormat beneath her feet. The annual Blair barbecue unfolded on the pristine patio, sunlight glinting off manicured lawns that screamed excess. The familiar soundtrack of her childhood, subtle one-upmanship veiled as conversation, stirred a mix of nostalgia and nausea in her chest. "Bethany," Rossi's voice rang out as Bethany stepped onto the patio, the scent of grilled delicacies mingling with floral blooms. "There you are. We were just talking about the Hamptons house Tamara and Elijah bought." "Of course." Tamara glided over in a flowing white sundress, its price tag eclipsing Bethany's grocery budget, her smile as curated as her gardens. "Oh, you brought food," she said, eyeing the dish suspiciously. How thoughtful. Green bean casserole, Bethany replied, placing it beside the catered spread. From our garden. Elijah appeared, martini in hand, his polo shirt crisp as fresh bills. Is it organic or just basic? The query hung, drawing curious glances from family friends. Heat rose in Bethany's neck, a familiar burn of inadequacy. It's homegrown, Payton interjected softly, his worn jeans and cotton shirt a stark contrast to Elijah's designer flair. Elijah nodded exaggeratedly. The farming thing, how's that? Still playing in the dirt. We're doing well, Bethany said levelly, masking her rising frustration. Profitable for 2 years. Tamara's laugh tinkled like wind chimes in a storm. Profitable? Adorable. Elijah just closed a deal worth more than your farm makes in a decade. Donald joined, bourbon in hand. When are you planning something more substantial? Rossi warned Donald. But her eyes betrayed curiosity. We're happy, Payton said simply. Honest work. Elijah swirled his drink. Like a nature documentary. Simple farm folk in their habitat. Chuckles rippled, deepening Bethany's isolation. Aaron watched silently from afar. At least we sleep well at night, Bethany slipped, regret instant as laughter died. Elijah's smile tightened. What's that mean? Nothing, just tiredness from work. The line crossed, tension thickened. Rossi diverted. Who wants to see the new pool house? As the group dispersed, Payton excused himself for air. His quiet endurance masking the toll these gatherings took. Alone by the pool, sunlight dancing on water that cost fortunes to maintain, Bethany pondered belonging. Aaron appeared with wine. They're awful today. Bethany sipped gratefully. This is Tuesday for them. Aaron hesitated. Things are tense with Elijah's work. Investments going bad. Tamara's stressed about lifestyle changes. Before Bethany could probe, Tamara called her over. Settle a debate on careers. You found your calling, subsistence farming. Laughter ensued. Don't you wonder what you could have accomplished if you'd applied yourself? Real life is Wall Street, not vegetable gardens. The words struck deep, stirring insecurities in the lavish setting. Bethany set her glass down. Real life happens unexpectedly. 6 months post-barbecue, cracks widened. Missed calls from parents, strained talks hinting at Tamara's woes. At Aaron's modest birthday dinner, a departure from family extravagance, Aaron confessed. Elijah's company is in trouble. Hampton's house on market, loans sought. Bethany's chest fluttered with schadenfreude, quickly suppressed. A call from Rossi summoned a family meeting. The Blair home, once imposing with perfect lawns, now seemed diminished under gray skies. Inside, the living room felt like a courtroom. Family arranged an accusation. They revealed financial ruin from Elijah's failed investments, demanding Bethany sell the farm, their only untied asset. Outrage boiled in Bethany as they dismissed her life as dirt and weeds. Payton remained calm, but later revealed his secret. Patents, a $50 million tech company masked as farming. He'd hidden it to test their true colors, and Elijah had bet against them, losing everything. The confrontation at the farm was electric. Payton unveiled truths, attorney in tow, exposing arrogance. Bethany confronted years of belittlement, emotions raw in the modest living room scented with earth. But the twist came post-departure. As dust settled, Payton's phone rang. An anonymous investor offering partnership. It was Tamara disguised, having secretly admired their resilience. She'd orchestrated a partial bailout, not for forgiveness, but to invest in their future. Bethany, stunned, saw a glimmer of redemption. In the golden fields they pondered alliance, turning revenge into unexpected unity, proving real worth transcended hierarchies. Like smoke, thickening the already stifling atmosphere of the Blair family living room. The space, once a symbol of unyielding perfection with its polished oak furniture and walls lined with framed accolades, mostly Tamara's, now felt like a crumbling fortress. Dust motes danced in the slanted afternoon light filtering through lace curtains, casting long shadows that mirrored the weariness etched on everyone's faces. Donald's voice, usually commanding like a boardroom decree, cracked slightly as he elaborated, his silver hair disheveled for the first time Payton could recall. From his seat beside Bethany, Payton observed it all with a detached calm. His farmer's hands folded in his lap, calluses rough against his jeans. But inside a storm brewed, years of swallowed insults bubbling to the surface. Tamara's eyes, sharp and calculating even in distress, darted between her parents and Bethany, her wrinkled designer blouse clinging uncomfortably in the humid air. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and desperation, a far cry from the scented candles that usually masked any imperfection. Elijah paced by the window, his haggard face reflecting in the glass, the once cocky investor now a shadow of arrogance, his tie loosened like a noose he couldn't escape. Aaron fidgeted on the ottoman, her diplomatic facade cracking, guilt twisting her features as she avoided Bethany's gaze. The air hung heavy, charged with unspoken accusations, each breath amplifying the tension. We could lose everything, Rossi repeated. her voice trembling, fingers twisting her wedding ring until her knuckles whitened. The words landed like a verdict, echoing in Payton's mind. He felt a surge of protectiveness for Bethany, whose face had paled, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and that familiar flicker of vindication she tried to hide. For years Payton had watched her endure this family's barbs, her spirit chipped away in elegant homes like this one, where success was measured in stock tickers and social climbs, not soil and sweat. Now, as the truth unraveled, he sensed the shift, the underdogs poised to rewrite the narrative. Bethany leaned forward, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions churning inside. Betrayal from those who should have championed her, a twisted satisfaction at their fall, and a deep-seated sorrow for the fractured bonds. Everything? The house, savings, retirement? She asked, her words cutting through the haze. Donald nodded grimly, the lines on his forehead deepening like furrows in untended earth. Elijah invested on our behalf. It didn't pan out. Elijah whirled, his desperation morphing into anger, the room's stuffy warmth amplifying his flushed cheeks. Cut the act. Erin told you, didn't she? About the investments going south. Payton remained silent, his brown eyes scanning the room like a field before planting, assessing yields and risks. He'd always been the observer in these gatherings, the simple farmer they dismissed, but his mind was a machine of innovation, patents brewing beneath the surface. Bethany glanced at Erin, who shrank under the scrutiny, her hands clasped tightly, knuckles pale. She mentioned difficulties, Bethany admitted, her tone laced with caution, emotions warring, pity for her sister's discomfort clashing with resentment at the family's perpetual favoritism. Difficulties. Elijah barked a bitter laugh that ricocheted off the walls, startling a bird outside the window into flight. The sound grated raw and unfiltered, exposing the cracks in his polished veneer. We're ruined, and we need your help. Tamara leaned in, her composure fracturing, eyes pleading for the first time Payton had seen. Vulnerable, almost human. Your land, the farm. Sell it. It's the only asset not tangled in this mess. The plea hung, absurd in its audacity, the room's air thickening with humidity from the drizzly day outside, mirroring the emotional storm. Bethany's heart hammered, a cocktail of fury and hurt surging through her veins. The farm wasn't just land. It was their sanctuary, golden fields under vast skies, scented with fresh earth and blooming crops, a world away from this sterile house of judgments. You want us to sell our home? To fix your mistakes? Her voice rose, trembling with the weight of decades, childhood games where Tamara excluded her, parental sighs over her simpler choices, barbecues laced with mockery. Payton squeezed her hand, his touch grounding, but inside he seethed, memories of condescending glances fueling his resolve. It's family, Rossi cried, tears streaming down her cheeks, smudging her makeup in rivulets that spoke of genuine fear. The word family twisted in Payton's gut like overworked soil. Had they ever treated Bethany as such? Elijah exploded. It's just dirt. You could buy another farm. The silence that followed was profound, the drizzle pattering against the windows like accusatory fingers. Even he winced, realizing the overstep. Payton stood slowly, his movements deliberate, the creak of the chair echoing in the tense space. We're leaving, he said quietly, his voice steady as a well-tended root system. But Rossi pleaded, think about it. By Monday. As they exited, Donald's parting shot followed. You'll realize what you owe us. Bethany whirled, her eyes blazing. What do we owe? After years as the disappointment. No answer came, only the door's click sealing the divide. The drive home was shrouded in gray mist, gravel crunching under tires like unresolved grievances. The farmhouse emerged through the drizzle, modest yet majestic, fields stretching like a promise under the overcast sky. Inside, the air was warm, scented with baking bread and earth tracked in from the barn. A haven. Payton led Bethany to his office, the space cluttered with blueprints and soil samples, revealing folders of patents and financials. Our farm is Stone Agricultural Technologies, he explained, his voice laced with quiet pride and regret. Bethany's emotions swirled. Awe at his hidden genius, betrayal at the secrecy. You let them mock us to test them? Hurt laced her words, the barn's wooden beams creaking overhead like judgments. But the revelations deepened. Elijah had shorted their stock, betting against simple farmers, losing fortunes including the family's. Irony bit deep, Payton's preparations a shield against their arrogance. As texts buzzed about their impending visit, Payton smiled sharply. Let them come. They'll learn. The next day the family arrived like a tempest, cars churning mud in the driveway, dust mingling with lingering rain. The farmhouse living room, with its handmade quilts and family photos faded by sun, became the arena. Payton, in worn jeans, faced their demands calmly, unveiling documents under the warm glow of a lamp that cast golden hues on the weathered walls. This patch of dirt is worth $50 million, he declared, patents spilling like seeds. Emotions peaked. Shock on Donald's face, tears from Tamara, Elijah's pallor as his bets were exposed. Bethany confronted them, voice breaking with pent-up pain. The room's earthy scent clashing with their city perfumes. You made me feel small for years. Leonard, the attorney, arrived, briefcase snapping open like justice, detailing protections and ironies. The family begged, desperation raw, but Bethany stood firm. Leave. Never return. As they departed, dust clouds swirling in the clearing sky, freedom washed over her like fresh rain. Yet the surprise unfolded that evening. As sunset painted the fields orange, a lone car returned, Aaron tear-streaked but with a folder. I found this in Elijah's files. He didn't just bet against you. He stole your early ideas, patented fragments under his name. Shock rippled through Payton and Bethany, emotions shifting from triumph to outrage. But Aaron continued. Tamara knew. She covered it up, but now she's turning evidence over anonymously to authorities. The twist, Tamara, in a bid for redemption or self-preservation, had exposed Elijah's fraud, triggering investigations that would dismantle his empire but spare the family total ruin, provided they testified. In the barn's dim light, amidst tools and innovations, Bethany grappled with the revelation. Forgiveness? Not yet. But as stars emerged in the vast rural sky, unpolluted by city lights, she saw layers. Cruelty born of insecurity, success not just in wealth but integrity. Payton held her, whispering, "We changed the world our way." The farm, once underestimated, now stood as a beacon. Its soil rich with unexpected alliances and buried truths unearthed. The family hierarchy shattered, not by revenge, but by the quiet power of authenticity blooming in the most unlikely fields. He bet against us, against stone agricultural technologies. The revelation hung in the dim light of the barn office, where shadows from the rafters stretched like accusing fingers across the wooden floorboards, worn smooth by years of Payton's purposeful strides. The air was thick with the scent of hay and machine oil, a comforting earthiness that clashed with the storm of emotions churning in Bethany's chest. From Payton's perspective, watching her face shift from confusion to dawning horror, it felt like unearthing a long-buried root, necessary but painful. He kept this secret not out of malice, but as a shield, a test of loyalties in a world that had always undervalued their quiet life. Now, as the papers fluttered slightly in the draft from an open window, carrying the faint patter of residual rain, he saw the cost, her trust fracturing like dry soil underfoot. Bethany sank back into the creaky chair, the wood protesting under her weight, her hands trembling as she gripped the desk's edge. The financial statements blurred before her eyes, numbers that screamed success yet whispered betrayal. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the heavy silence. Payton's brown eyes, usually steady as the horizon at dawn, softened with regret, the lines around them deepening like furrows in a well-plowed field. He slid the folder across the scarred desktop, its contents spilling out like seeds from a burst pod, stock reports, transaction logs, emails that detailed Elijah's calculated gamble. "He shorted our stock," Payton explained, his tone measured, though anger simmered beneath, hot as sun-baked earth. "Put his client's money, your parents' retirement included, on a bet we'd fail." The words landed like hail on tender crops, bruising Bethany's already raw heart. She felt a surge of conflicting tides, vindication that their simple life had outshone the family's grandeur, fury at Elijah's arrogance, and a deep ache for the parents who'd pinned their dreams on the wrong star. The barn's environment amplified it all. The distant lowing of cattle, the rustle of wind through the fields outside, a reminder of the real tangible world they built together, far from Wall Street's illusions. Her mind raced back to the family meeting earlier that day, the Blair living room's oppressive elegance now a stark contrast to this humble space. There, under crystal lamps that cast judgmental glares, Elijah had glared at her as if she were the architect of his downfall. Now, in the barn's warm glow from a single bulb swaying gently, the truth inverted everything. "He was so sure anything tied to farmers like us was worthless," Payton continued, his voice gaining edge, fists clenching subtly on the desk. "Staked it all on our collapse, and lost every penny to us." Bethany's breath caught, a flutter of dark satisfaction mingling with shame, like weeds encroaching on a pristine row of crops. She paced to the window, staring out at the golden fields bathed in twilight, the evening mist rising like ghosts from the soil. How many times had she doubted herself here, under this very roof, while Payton harbored this empire? The phone buzzed on the desk, shattering the moment. A text from Aaron. "They're coming tomorrow. All of them. Dad won't take no." Payton read it over her shoulder, his presence solid and warm behind her, the scent of earth and sweat a balm. Anticipation flickered in his eyes, sharp as a scythe. Good. Let them come. Bethany whirled, emotions boiling over. Hurt at his secrecy, awe at his foresight. "You're planning something." His smile was unfamiliar, a blade honed in shadows. "To show them the truth. All of it." The barn felt smaller then, the weight of unspoken years pressing down. But outside, the fields whispered promises of resilience, stars beginning to prick the darkening sky. Morning dawned crisp, the farm awakening under a veil of fog that clung to the rolling hills like a reluctant shroud. Payton moved through his routines with deliberate calm, the dew-kissed grass crunching under his boots, the air alive with birdsong and the distant hum of machinery. Yet inside, tension coiled like a spring, anticipation mixed with dread. Bethany watched from the kitchen window, coffee steaming in her hands, its bitter aroma grounding her swirling thoughts. The modest farmhouse, with its weathered siding and flower boxes blooming defiantly, stood as a testament to their hidden triumphs. She felt exposed, raw from Payton's revelations, but empowered too, like a seed finally breaking through hardened ground. They arrived at noon, 3 cars slicing through the mist, tires churning mud into ruts that scarred the driveway. The family emerged like invaders on foreign soil, Donald grim and authoritative, Rossi tear-streaked and pleading, Tamara clutching a portfolio as if it were armor, Elijah adjusting his tie with forced composure, and even little Tiffany, wide-eyed in her pristine dress, holding Aaron's hand. The air carried the scent of exhaust mingling with fresh hay, a clash of worlds. Payton greeted them at the door, his simple attire, jeans and button-down, a deliberate contrast to their city polish, the porch creaking under collective weight. Inside the living room, sunlight filtered through gingham curtains, casting warm patches on the handmade quilts and family photos that chronicled a life of quiet achievement. The space felt intimate, almost sacred, scented with baking pies from the oven. A far cry from the Blair home's sterile grandeur. "We need to talk," Donald barked, setting sale papers on the coffee table like a decree. Payton gestured to seats, his movements unhurried, but his pulse thrummed with restrained fury. Bethany stood by the mantel, heart pounding, emotions a tempest, resentment at their demands, pity for their desperation. Elijah dismissed the farm's worth with a wave. 200,000 at best, decent dirt. The words ignited Payton. He pulled the folder, spreading patents like a harvest display. "This dirt is headquarters for a $50 million company." Shock rippled through the room, faces paling under the golden light. Tamara sank into a chair, her predatory grace shattered, tears welling as the truth unfolded. Payton revealed his PhD, the innovations, and Elijah's fatal bet. His voice steady but laced with years of swallowed pride. The environment amplified the drama. The tick of a grandfather clock, the distant moo of cows, a reminder that life here pulsed with real purpose. Bethany's turn came, emotions pouring out like rain on parched land. "You mocked us for years, my degree, our wedding, our simple life." Her voice cracked, hands shaking, the room's warmth contrasting the chill of old wounds. Leonard arrived, briefcase snapping open, detailing legal shields and ironies, his presence turning the tide. Please turn desperate. Family helps family. But Payton stood firm, the farmhouse walls seeming to echo his resolve. As they filed out, dust swirling in the clearing fog, freedom washed over Payton like a fresh breeze. Yet the surprise struck that night. Under the starlit sky, fields whispering in the wind, a knock echoed. It was Tamara, alone, disheveled, clutching a USB drive. I helped Elijah short you. But not just that. I sabotaged early prototypes, leaked ideas to competitors." Shock froze Payton and Bethany, emotions reeling. Betrayal deepened, but her next words twisted everything. "It was jealousy. Your quiet success. It exposed my emptiness. But this drive, evidence of his fraud, including mine. Turn it in. Ruin us if you must. Or let me invest. Truly partner. I've seen your worth now." The revelation hung, unexpected as a sudden bloom in barren soil. Payton exchanged glances with Bethany, hearts conflicted. Forgiveness a seed planted in pain. In the barn's glow they pondered. Revenge or redemption? The farm, once a secret fortress, now beckoned alliance, proving true value lay not in hierarchies, but in unearthed truths and mended roots under the vast, forgiving night. He bet against us, against stone agricultural technologies. From Tamara's vantage point, perched on the edge of the armchair in her parents' living room the day before, those words would have been unthinkable. Yet now, as the truth unraveled in the dim glow of Payton's barn office, they echoed in Bethany's mind like thunder rolling over distant fields. The office, tucked in the barn's rear, was a sanctuary of organized chaos. Stacks of blueprints yellowed at the edges, soil samples in glass jars catching the fading evening light through a small dust-streaked window. The air hung heavy with the musty scent of hay and oiled machinery, a grounding aroma that clashed with the whirlwind of betrayal swirling in Bethany's heart. She sank back into the worn leather chair, its springs creaking in protest, as the full picture snapped into focus like a lens sharpening on hidden details. Elijah, her brother-in-law, the golden boy with his Wall Street swagger, had gambled everything on their failure, convinced that simple farmers like them were destined to crumble. Tamara, if she could have seen this moment, might have felt a pang of something unfamiliar, regret. But in her world of marble foyers and high-stakes deals, such humility was rare. Bethany's emotions churned, shock giving way to a bitter satisfaction, like biting into a ripe fruit only to find it tart. "He lost it all betting against us," Payton said, his voice low and steady, though his eyes burned with a fire Tamara had never witnessed in the quiet farmer. He organized the papers with precise movements, his callous fingers betraying no tremor, but inside a storm raged, years of endured mockery fueling a quiet vengeance. The phone buzzed on the desk, slicing through the tension. A text from Aaron. "They're coming tomorrow. All of them. Dad won't take no." Bethany showed it to Payton, her hand unsteady, emotions knotting in her throat. Dread at the impending confrontation, a spark of defiance. He read it, anticipation glinting in his eyes like sunlight on dewy leaves. Good. Let them come. His smile was sharp, unfamiliar. A blade forged in secrecy. Tamara would have recoiled at this side of him, the calculating undercurrent beneath the gentle facade. "They're going to learn the truth," he said, standing to gather the folders, his shadow lengthening across the room as the sun dipped lower, painting the walls in amber hues. "What are you planning?" Bethany asked, her voice laced with unease, the barn's environment amplifying her isolation. The distant whinny of a horse, the rustle of wind through cracks in the wood. "A real education about our worth. And then, we'll see if they're family or just share DNA." For the first time Bethany saw him fully. The quiet farmer layered over something harder, more strategic. "You've prepared for this." He met her gaze, dangerous now like a storm cloud gathering. "We'll find out tomorrow." Dawn broke over the farm with a crisp chill, mist cloaking the fields like a secretive veil, the air alive with the earthy tang of damp soil and blooming crops. Tamara's convoy arrived like an invading force at precisely 2 o'clock, 3 luxury cars churning the gravel driveway into muddy furrows, dust clouds billowing and settling on glossy paint jobs that screamed urban excess. From the kitchen window, framed by gingham curtains fluttering in the breeze, Bethany watched them disembark, her parents grim and aged under the overcast sky, Tamara clutching a leather portfolio like a shield, her sundress wrinkled and out of place amid the rural simplicity, Elijah adjusting his tie with feigned confidence, his face pale as the fog. Even little Tiffany, 8 years old, looking lost in her pristine white dress, tugging at Aaron's hand while Aaron hovered uncertainly behind. "Showtime," Payton murmured, straightening his button-down shirt. Simple cotton over jeans and work boots, the uniform that had drawn years of sneers. The knock echoed sharp and authoritative, Donald's trademark rap, vibrating through the wooden door like a demand. Bethany opened it, the cool air rushing in with scents of exhaust and fresh hay, her heart pounding with a mix of resolve and lingering guilt. They filed in like a delegation, eyes scanning the living room's humble warmth. Simple furniture polished by use, handmade quilts draped over armchairs, family photos on the mantel capturing moments of quiet joy under vast skies. But now their gazes calculated worth, measuring sacrifice in square footage, the room's cozy lamplight casting long shadows that mirrored their desperation. "Please sit," Payton offered mildly, gesturing to the couch where faded cushions invited rest. "We'd rather stand," Elijah snapped, his voice tight, barely masking the panic clawing at his chest. The same man who dismissed their life as dirt and weeds. Donald pulled a folder, setting sale papers on the coffee table like a legal gauntlet. "We've appraised it, found a buyer. Sign." Bethany stared, outrage bubbling like a spring welling up. "Without asking?" Rossi's voice strained, pleading. "Time's a factor." Payton's mild query. "Whose time?" Drew Elijah's snarl. "Don't play games. You know the stakes. Houses, futures, Tiffany's college fund." "Daddy, what's happening?" Tiffany tugged, her innocent confusion piercing the tension, the room's warmth clashing with the chill of adult failures. "Just talking about family," Rossi said, eyes fixed on Bethany, stirring that familiar guilt, a vine twisting around her resolve. But Payton watched, unreadable, then spoke. "You're right. Family cares." Relief washed over Rossi. "Thank goodness." But Payton continued, retrieving the manila folder from his desk, the floorboards creaking under his boots. "What's that?" Tamara eyed it suspiciously, her composure fraying, emotions warring. Desperation and a flicker of envy she couldn't name. "Information about us," Payton replied, settling in. Donald impatiently demanded a decision, but Payton turned to Elijah. "What's this farm worth?" Elijah dismissed. 200,000, maybe 300. Decent dirt. Payton's response shattered the air. "It's headquarters for a $50 million company." Silence descended, thick as the mist outside, Tamara whispering faintly. "What?" "Stone Agricultural Technologies." Payton continued conversationally, pulling patents, laying them beside the sale papers. "Advanced irrigation mine licensed across states." Another. "Soil software also mine." The documents piled up, numbers staggering. Rossi stared, uncomprehending. The room's quilted coziness now a backdrop to revelation. "While you look down, we built this," Donald weakly protested. "But you're just a farmer." Payton revealed his MIT PhD CEO status, voice hardening. Tamara sank. "This can't be real." Financials made Elijah recoil, the lamplight highlighting his pallor. "But wait, there's more," Payton said, edge sharpening. "You bet against us, Elijah." Shorted our stock, lost it all to our success. Irony hung beautiful and brutal, Aaron whispering. Oh my God, you're asking us to sacrifice to fix your bet against us. The front door opened, Leonard Wise entering in a suit, briefcase in hand. Sorry, traffic. Payton introduced. Our attorney. Leonard arranged documents surgically, the coffee table transforming into a battlefield. Basics. Owned by our corporation, no liens, Leonard stated, sliding checks proving repayment. Donald balked. Impossible. Further. Protected by statutes, federal grants. Rossi whispered. Grants. Payton nodded. Drought-resistant crops. Revolutionizing farming. Elijah mustered. But family needs help. Bethany rose, emotions erupting. Family? You mocked my graduation. Not a real degree. Our wedding, every gathering. Her voice shook, hands trembling, the room's photos mocking the hypocrisy. Tamara sobbed. We didn't know. That's the point, you didn't care. Leonard addressed losses. $2.3 million, 17 families. Payton quietly. You gambled their savings on our failure. Elijah defended desperately. Sure thing, startups fail. Leonard countered. You didn't research. Donald threatened suit. Leonard smiled. Please explain to a jury. Tamara broke in. What do you want? Bethany, leave. Never return. Please followed, but they departed like defeated shadows, dust swirling in the clearing air. Freedom settled, the farmhouse exhaling. But the surprise came at midnight, under a moonlit sky where fields shimmered silver. A figure approached, Elijah alone, frantic. I didn't just bet. I rigged it. Sabotaged your prototypes remotely, using hacked data. Shock froze them, emotions reeling. Deeper betrayal. But Tamara, she stopped me. Covered it to protect the family, but now she's filing for divorce, turning evidence over. The twist. Tamara, the golden child, had been the whistleblower, anonymously alerting authorities to Elijah's crimes, saving the family from total ruin while exposing her own complicity in small ways. In the barn's glow, Bethany grappled. Cruelty born of fear, redemption and sacrifice. As dawn crested, they chose alliance. Tamara's investment offer accepted, transforming rivals into partners, proving worth in unexpected bonds forged from broken soil. Federal grant protections. From Aaron's perspective, huddled on the ottoman in the farmhouse living room, those words landed like a distant rumble of thunder, shaking the foundations of everything she'd known. The room, bathed in the soft afternoon glow filtering through lace curtains, felt worlds away from the polished sterility of their parents' home. Here the air carried the faint, comforting scent of fresh-baked bread and sun-warmed earth, mingling with the tension that hung thick as summer humidity. Handmade quilts draped over worn armchairs invited a coziness that clashed with the family's unraveling desperation. Dust motes dancing in the light like unspoken regrets. Erin's heart twisted with guilt, her fingers digging into the fabric of her skirt as she watched Bethany stand tall. Her sister's face a mask of resolve cracked by years of buried hurt. Tamara's mascara-streaked cheeks glistened under the warm lamplight, her sobs echoing softly against the wooden walls, while Elijah's pallor deepened, his once confident frame slumping like a wilted crop in drought. Federal grants. Rossi whispered again, her voice frail, eyes wide with a mix of awe and despair, the word federal tasting foreign on her tongue, a symbol of legitimacy she'd never associated with Bethany's simple life. Payton nodded calmly, his voice steady as the rhythm of a plow turning soil. The Department of Agriculture sees the potential. Drought-resistant crops, game-changers for climate-hit regions. Aaron felt a pang of admiration for him, this man she'd always seen as unassuming, now revealed as a visionary, his brown eyes sharp with quiet triumph. But it warred with her shame. How many times had she stayed silent at family gatherings, letting the barbs fly to keep the peace? Elijah cleared his throat, voice rasping like dry leaves underfoot. Impressive, but it doesn't change we're family. We need help. The word family sliced through Aaron, bitter and hollow, stirring a storm of emotions. Loyalty to her parents, sorrow for Tamara's crumbling facade, and a growing empathy for Bethany, whom she'd failed to defend. Bethany repeated it, standing with a grace Aaron envied, the mantle's photos gleaming behind her like silent witnesses. Family. Let's talk about that. She picked up the graduation photo, the frame cool in her hands, and Aaron's stomach nodded, remembering that day. Bethany beaming in her cap and gown, only for Donald to dismiss it as not real. Remember? Summa cum laude in environmental science. You said it was a waste, Dad, studying dirt and plants. Donald's face hardened to stone, the room's warmth doing nothing to thaw the chill of old wounds. Aaron wanted to speak, to bridge the gap, but her throat tightened with cowardice. Bethany set it down, grabbing the wedding photo next, her hands shaking slightly, betraying the rage simmering beneath. Our wedding, you apologize for my poor choice. Hoped I'd come to my senses. Rossi started, Bethany, but was cut off. I'm not finished. Bethany's voice steadied, but Aaron saw the tremor, felt the echo of every holiday where snide comments had flown. Thanksgiving scented with turkey and tension. Christmases glittering with lights but shadowed by judgment. Every gathering, you made me the disappointment, the one who settled. Tamara cried openly now, mascara rivers carving paths down her cheeks, her usual poise shattered like fragile glass in a hailstorm. We didn't mean. You meant it, Bethany countered, turning to her, voice exploding with pent-up fury. Aaron flinched, emotions flooding, regret for her neutrality, a sisterly ache for Tamara's pain, and pride in Bethany's strength. You called our life a joke, real life on Wall Street, not our bubble. But you didn't know about the company, the money, and that's the point. You didn't care. We were just people to look down on. Leonard cleared his throat, the sound crisp in the heavy air, pulling another document with surgical precision. The coffee table, scarred from years of family use, now held a battlefield of papers. The losses. $2.3 million, 17 clients' retirements. Payton added quietly. 17 families gambled away on our failure. Aaron's chest tightened. Those weren't just numbers, they were lives, trusts betrayed. Elijah defended desperately. Sure thing. Startups fail 90%. Leonard interrupted. But you didn't research. Assumed farming was worthless like us. Donald threatened suit. Leonard's smile was chilling. Explain to a jury your son-in-law betting against your daughter. Fascinating optics. Tamara's voice broke. What do you want? Bethany surveyed them. Parents who'd diminished her. Sister who'd wielded cruelty like art. Elijah's arrogance. Tiffany's innocent confusion in the corner. Her small face pale amid the adult wreckage. Aaron's heart ached for her niece. The room's cozy quilts a mocking contrast to the emotional barrenness. Leave. Never come back. Rossi begged. We're sorry, family. No, Bethany said, the word ringing like liberation, freeing Aaron from her own silence too. Family doesn't tear down, doesn't crawl back only for need. Tamara pleaded for Tiffany's future. Bethany retorted. Yours to protect, you gambled it. Donald asked if she'd let them lose all. Bethany laughed harshly. What have you done for me but make me feel inadequate? No answer. Payton ended it. Meeting over. Leonard, escort them. Tamara's shrill warning. You'll regret turning on family. Bethany met her eyes, unafraid. I'll remember this as freedom from your definitions. They filed out like mourners, the porch steps creaking farewell. Cars kicking up dust clouds that swirled in the clearing sky, leaving silence and emptiness. Aaron lingered a moment, eyes meeting Bethany's with unspoken apology, before following, the farm's peaceful fields mocking their defeat. The silence post-departure was profound, not vacant but vibrant, like the air after a storm, fresh and charged. Leonard packed his briefcase methodically, snaps echoing like final judgments. As expected, he said, straightening his tie. You've done this? Bethany asked. Not quite, but families reveal truths in desperation. Move forward without them. After he left, Bethany and Payton sat on the porch, the wooden railing smooth under Payton's tracing fingers, sun setting over fields glowing golden, the air cooling with evening's whisper, scented with hay and distant rain. Too harsh? Bethany asked, vulnerability creeping in. Payton pondered, the horizon painting his face in warm hues. Remember Tamar's wedding toast? Playing in the mud? Hard to forget. I knew this day would come. They saw superiority, not us. But they're family. Are they? The question lingered like mist. Aaron's call interrupted, her name flashing on the screen. Payton encouraged. Take it, she's different. Bethany answered, Aaron's tear-thick voice spilling. I'm sorry. I knew but never defended you. Neutrality hurts when love's involved. Bethany closed her eyes, unexpected tears welling. The porch's evening breeze soothing. You were in the middle. A coward. Now they're vilifying you, abandonment, destruction. Tamara's bitter, says you planned it. We didn't, just stop pretending. Aaron's crack. Forgive me. Bethany gazed at their land, resilient under twilight. You're calling, that matters. Come Sunday, no drama. Just me. Payton took her hand post-call. One down. Think others will come around. Aaron considered that, driving away in the fading light, emotions a tangle. Relief at the olive branch, sorrow at the rift. A week ago, losing family terrified. Now it felt like shedding chains. No, Bethany said. It doesn't matter. The next morning, garden dew sparkling under sun, a car approached. Not parents but Sarah Martinez from agriculture, manila folder in hand, jeans practical amid the blooming rose. Mrs. Stone, your drought research. Preliminary results incredible. Fast-track grant. $2.7 million over 3 years. Feeding millions. Bethany stared at Payton, who smiled. Wanted certainty first. As they discussed protocols, the fields hummed with bees and wind, Aaron imagining the scene from afar. Her sister's quiet work exposing the family's superficiality. Evening walks through orange-pink fields felt renewed. Regrets pondered. Mother's tears, Tamara's desperation, Tiffany's innocence. No regrets, Bethany affirmed. They chose to undervalue us. I choose this. But the surprise unfolded weeks later, under a harvest moon casting silver over the barn. A letter arrived, anonymous, revealing a trust fund in Tiffany's name, funded secretly by Rossi years ago, diverted from Elijah's schemes, now accessible only if managed by Bethany. The twist: Rossi had always believed in her dirt and plants, squirreling away support, exposed now in desperation's wake. Emotions surged, forgiveness budding like unexpected sprouts. The family, fractured, found a seed of reconciliation, proving true bonds endure not in grandeur, but in hidden roots nurtured through storms. Any of the others will come around? From Payton's vantage, leaning against the porch railing as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the golden fields that rolled like waves under the evening breeze, the question lingered in the air, scented with the earthy tang of harvested soil and distant wildflowers. The farmhouse stood solid behind them, its weathered siding glowing warm in the fading light, a beacon of resilience amid the vast, open landscape that had always felt like an extension of his soul. Bethany's hand in his felt steady, but he sensed the undercurrent of her emotions, residual hurt mingling with newfound liberation, like roots finally breaking free from compacted earth. A week ago, the idea of severing family ties would have shattered her. Now, sitting on land they owned outright, enveloped by the quiet triumph they'd cultivated together, it resembled molting, shedding a brittle shell for something vital and new. "No," she said at last, her voice firm yet soft, echoing the rustle of leaves in the cooling wind. "It doesn't matter." The next morning dawned crisp and clear, the garden alive with dew-kissed petals shimmering under a sky streaked with pale blue, the air humming with bees and the faint chirp of birds nesting in the hedgerows. Payton watched from the barn entrance, tools in hand, as Bethany knelt among the rows of vegetables, her fingers gently tending the soil, her face a portrait of contentment laced with lingering introspection. A car's engine hummed in the driveway, gravel crunching like unspoken doubts, and her heart visibly leaped, eyes widening with a flash of apprehension, wondering if her parents had returned for another plea. But emerging from the modest sedan was a stranger, a woman in her 40s, clad in practical jeans and a simple blouse, manila folder clutched like a promise. "Mrs. Stone," she called, her voice carrying over the morning mist. "I'm Sarah Martinez from the Department of Agriculture, here to discuss your drought resistance research with you and your husband." Payton stepped out, wiping grease-stained hands on a towel, the barn's interior shadows, filled with the metallic scent of machinery and stacked innovations, yielding to the open field's freshness. "Sarah, good time," he greeted, shaking her hand firmly, though inside, a quiet thrill surged, validation after years of solitary toil. "Your preliminary results incredible," she said, smiling broadly, her enthusiasm cutting through the cool air. "We'd like to fast-track the grant. $2.7 million over 3 years. This could transform drought farming, feed millions." Bethany's query, "Grant approval?" held a mix of surprise and joy, her eyes locking on Payton with affectionate accusation. "Wanted certainty first," he admitted, warmth flooding his chest at her expression, the environment amplifying the moment. Sun climbing higher, banishing the mist, revealing the expanse of their worthless dirt as a canvas of potential. As they delved into protocols and timelines, the garden's vibrant greens and blooming edges framing their discussion, Payton reflected on the family's intrusion, their demands echoing hollow against this backdrop of true impact. They'd ridiculed their life as insignificant, blind to how it could nourish the world. Irony as sharp as the morning light slicing through leaves. That evening, strolling the fields under a sky ablaze in orange and pink, the same path worn by countless walks, everything pulsed with renewal. The grass whispering underfoot, air rich with pollen and promise. "Regrets?" he asked, emotions stirring. Protectiveness for her pain, pride in their bond. She pondered mother's tears, Tamara's desperation, Tiffany's innocence. Years of doubt like weeds uprooted. "None," she affirmed. "They undervalued us. I choose this." His gentle smile bloomed, gesturing to the horizon. Big plans, world-changing, one seed at a time. As they neared the house, a shift inside her solidified. Approval's weight lifted, replaced by unyielding strength. She belonged here with him in this purpose. But the surprise came at midnight. A frantic call from Aaron revealed Tamara's secret alliance. She'd anonymously funded their early patents, jealous yet admiring, now exposed in ruin. Emotions crashed. Betrayal twisted into hidden support. The family, shattered, harbored a seed of envy turned aid, forcing reconciliation's bloom in unexpected soil.